If you're a fan of the Rubicon fender flares and want the extra capability that they offer while keeping the OE appearance, these MP Concepts high clearance fenders for the front with the sequential turn signals will be a great pick for your 2018 or newer JL Wrangler. Now this set again will be great if you don't want to get rid of the OE styling, but you need more room inside the wheel well area for some better clearance, especially if you're taking your Jeep off-road. Not to mention, these will come with the turn signals and corner lights in the kit, offering a more modernized look with the LEDs and stealthy appearance thanks to the smoked lenses. Now that will be great for the JL owner who wants a full upgrade in the clearance and the lighting department rather than one or the other, with this being a one-stop shop. Getting into the construction, these will mimic again the factory JL Rubicon fenders, including an OE smooth polypropylene material. It's UV treated to stay good looking for years to come. Now these will offer 2 inches of additional clearance for a lot more space compared to the lower trim model and the factory fender flares. These will also come with the bracing and the wheel liners for the underneath of the fender to keep it structurally sound and really making this a complete package. Now, of course, I couldn't fit them on the table, but you are going to get everything you need in order to install these on your Jeep in the kit. Now, as for the turn signals, these will feature a polycarbonate smoke buttons on the front, offering great durability and a whole lot of style, especially when it comes to the LEDs. These will not only look a lot more modernized, but also offer better lighting performance. They'll even come with a split design with the bright white LEDs up at the top, and then down at the bottom you'll have the amber LED sequential turn signal, making you a lot more noticeable while you're driving for, of course, safety, but also style. When it comes to price, these will be right around the $700 mark, which is a little bit more on the premium side for a plastic flare, but when you take into consideration what this has in the kit in comparison to some of its competitors, I think it's set at a really good price point. Not only are you getting the front fenders, but also the liners, the bracing, the hardware, and you are getting upgraded turn signals as well as corner lights, making this a very inclusive kit. Now, most other choices for plastic flares will usually consist of flat options, or if they are high clearance like this choice, they usually won't have as factory of a look to them. Now, on that note, most factory style flares will usually keep the factory clearance and not give you the additional 2 inches that this one will. So all in all, if you're looking to upgrade your fenders to something with a capable, sleek, and functional setup, then this is a great set to choose. Installing this will be pretty straightforward. I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and it will take you about 3 hours to get the job done with the right hand tools. Now at this point, we can head over to the shop and check out a detailed breakdown of the install and what that looks like step by step. So that's gonna wrap it up for me. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
The tools you'll need for this installation include a ratchet, electric or regular, 8 and 10 millimeter sockets, T25 and T30 Torx sockets, socket extension, trim removal tool, pop clip removal tool, flathead and Phillips head screwdrivers, diagonal cutters, a drill with a 9/32 inch drill bit. What's going on, everybody? Today we have a set of front fender flares that we're going to be installing for you step by step. And we're going to get started right here at the front by removing our factory fender flares. First thing we have to do is remove 4 bolts that are underneath of our fender here, and we're going to use our 10 millimeter socket. The 4 bolts are about here, here, and then 2 towards the front. Now, we don't have a fender liner on our Jeep right now, but for you guys at home who do still have the fender liner on, you're gonna have to remove 3 pop clips at this point using your trim removal tool. And there's 1 up front right about this area here, and then there's 2 in the very back down here. Once you have those removed, you can then pull off the fender and the fender liner will come off with it. Now, if you're worried about the pop clips that are up in here, there's a bunch of white pop clips. If you're worried about those, you can either pry from behind with your trim removal tool, but if not, then you can simply pull this off. Some of those pop clips might break. So another thing to mention also is that our new kit comes with these replacement white pop clips. So if you do break a couple of them, not to worry because we will be replacing them. Okay, once you have the fender off, you are going to have to disconnect this wire as well. So right here is the connector for our turn signal / fender light harness, and it is attached to the body with like a pop clip retainer. So we can slide it off the retainer. Right here is where that goes. But if we spin it over now, we can see that there is a safety clip here that we have to pull out. So once we pull that out, then we can press the tab right here and maybe push it in a little bit, makes it easier sometimes, but then you can pull it off and remove the fender entirely. We have our factory fender up on our workbench, as we have to remove some of the components from this because we'll be reusing them in our new fender. So we're gonna start right over here with our 8mm T25 and T30 sockets, removing this hardware all along here. All right, so we have a T30 right here that we want to remove. All right, and then we have another T30 right below that we're also going to remove. All right, now we're going to swap over to our 8mm socket, and we're going to remove these two screws right here. All right, with those screws removed, we can now lift up this panel here. And this actually exposes another T30 right here. And we're gonna go ahead and remove that right now. All right, and then we have a couple T25s that we have to remove as well. All right, so before we get to those T25s, we can actually remove this piece of the skeleton, the fender skeleton. All we have to do is remove this pop clip at this point. So let's get our pop clip removal tool and pry off the top part here. All right, and then we can pop this out and get the skeleton out of the way. All right, and now we have easier access to these T25s in here. There's one or two of them. Looks like we got one here and possibly another T30. All right, so we have two T25s we're gonna remove at this point. One's right here at the top, and then down at the bottom, around here, we're gonna remove both of those. Right, now we're gonna swap over to our T30 and get that last screw out. Now at this point we can remove our side marker light as well as our turn signal / fender light. So our side marker light, if you kind of slide it forward, pull it up, it comes out of the way, and then we can pull our fender light straight out. And then just slide your marker light through the hole. Everything comes out as one. All right, with our light out, we're going to work on the light harness here. All we're basically doing is removing these retainer clips here, and they're held on by a zip tie. And we're gonna reuse these on our new light. So all we have to do is trim the zip ties that hold them in place. And we can discard the cut zip tie. So when we go to put these back on, all we're gonna do is just slide a new zip tie through there and tie it onto our new wiring harness. All right, looks like this one will not be reusable, so we'll leave that guy. So it looks like we got 3 off of there in total. So just keep those safe as we'll be reusing those. And we can get the light out of the way for now, and we'll move on to the retainer clips that are on our fender. We're gonna get all those off as we're gonna be removing or reusing those as well. This is the light bracket or fender skeleton that we took off earlier from the front of our fender. So what we're gonna do is just pry all of our retainer clips off so that we can reuse these in our new fender and our new skeleton. So I'm using a flathead screwdriver. I'm just gonna wedge this in the front of these and kind of twist them and pry them off. So just do that for all of these retainers as well as a bunch that are in the fender. So there's kind of a clip that sits inside the hole too. So you have to pry that out as well to get these out. It can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but if you just take your time with them, work them out slowly, you should be able to get them out one by one. So if you can see here, there's that tab that sits inside the hole. That's what you want to make sure is coming out as you're prying. All right, that looks like it's all of them out of our skeleton, so we're gonna move on to our factory fender and get the rest out. All right, we got one more retainer clip here towards the middle of the fender. I'm gonna get this guy out too. Last thing we have to do is remove the hardware from our rear fender skeleton here. And there's two Phillips head screws that we have to remove, one on the top right here, one kind of in the middle right here, and then lastly a push clip, Christmas tree clip that we have to remove right here using our trim removal tool. So these are plastic screws, so you have to put as little as tension as possible on them when you're unscrewing them. Otherwise, you'll just end up pushing them back in. Lastly, the Christmas tree. Go ahead and grab your trim removal tool. Go, pop that guy out. All right, and then this is gonna stay in place, but we are gonna be reusing all the hardware. Now we have our new fender up on our workbench, and the first thing we're gonna do is just go ahead and reinstall all of those retaining clips that we just removed, just so that we can, keep them safe so they're not just lying around loose. So we're just gonna reinstall them in the exact same places that we took them out of. So we might not be reusing all of our retaining clips, but any spot you see looks like this on our new fenders, that's where these guys are gonna go. So just fill in all those spots. And there are two different sizes, so just be aware of that as well. It should fit snugly into place. All right, we've got two more here where our light hole is, where our new light's gonna go. The four remaining retaining clips are gonna go on our new skeleton here. And one is gonna go right here, 2, 3, and 4. All right, at this point we have our new lights, side marker light as well. We're gonna install these into the fender at this point. And first thing we're gonna do is line up the two tabs here on the bottom of our turn signal light. And these two tabs right here line up with the holes in the fender here and here. Once we get that into place, then we're gonna loosely put in a T25 in one of these holes. That way we can maneuver our marker light in place. All right, so as you can see, we just have this T25 at the bottom of our turn signal light in. We have that in loosely just so we can maneuver this around to make it easier to put our marker light in. So to get this in, we're gonna feed the wire in through the hole first. And then also at the top of our light right here, there's a little bracket, and part of our marker light is going to slide into that to hold it in place. Once we have this in place, then we can put our T30 through this hole to keep our marker light nice and tight in place on our fender. So again, right here, this hole through our light is where our T30 is going to go, and that's going to attach the marker light to it. And we're just keeping everything relatively loose for now until we get all the rest of the hardware in. Then we'll go back and tighten everything down properly. All right, now we're gonna put in the rest of our factory light hardware. So we're gonna put a T25 right here. And then we have two T30s that need to go here and here. And then at that point, we can go ahead and put our new fender skeleton in place. All right, so again, this is a T25 going here. All right, swapping over to our T30 bit, and we're gonna put T30 right here. All right, now at this point, we can go ahead and get our new skeleton and put that in place, and then we can bolt everything down securely. Right now we have our new fender skeleton here, and we're gonna position in place. Before we bolt it down, just wanted to point out, it is a little tricky to figure out the configuration of this thing, but if you take a look at the open end and the angle here of the skeleton, this is the position you want it in. This is the part that is going to go, that our body is going to slide into, and this is what attaches it directly to the body of the Jeep. So we're going to keep the wires over top of our skeleton, and then on this side, you'll notice this hole right here lines up with our fender, or the hole in our fender. All right, so once you have those holes lined up, come back over here and kind of just pry the fender apart so that you can fit this in place. And you'll know you got it in there good when the holes in the middle here line up as well. So once you have that all in place, go ahead and grab a push clip and secure it right here. All right, so for this spot right here, to secure our skeleton to our fender, we're gonna use one of the supplied push clips here. So make sure it's one of the bigger ones. Slide the insert in first, and then go ahead and pop in. Go ahead and pop in our push screw. All right, if it doesn't go all the way in, go ahead and grab your Phillips and screw it the rest of the way in. So you might have to just apply pressure to it like I did there, push it in till it grabs, and then you can screw it the rest of the way in. Let's go ahead and put the last few bolts in. So we're gonna put a 30 through our light bracket here into the fender. It's a T30, I should say. Then we're gonna put a T30 through the skeleton here, holding it onto the light as well. So these holes need to be threaded. They are not pre-threaded into the plastic. So just be careful when you're working with one of these plastic holes here. Don't over tighten it, because you don't want to strip the plastic the whole way out. So we're just gonna go very slowly. There we go. Just snug it down. At this point, before we put this flap down and put our 8s in, let's go across all the bolts that we've already put in, make sure they are snug all the way down. Okay, all the bolts are secure. Make sure that your wiring harness here is through this little U in the skeleton. We can put our flap down and put our 8 mils in. So one of them is going to go right here. All right, and our other 8 mil is going to go over here. All right, now that we have all our hardware in our skeleton, flaps down and secure, I'm gonna go ahead and get this wiring harness ready to go. So what we need to do, first things first, let's kind of straighten this out. Then let's go ahead and plug in our marker light to the main harness. So you'll notice that it has 2 pins in the main harness and then 2 slots in the marker light harness. So just make sure they line up and click the connectors together. Okay. All right, now we can move on to the main harness, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our retaining clips back on. So what we need to do is grab 3 zip ties, put them through the little bracket here on the bottom of our retainer clip. And the way they're gonna go through, I think the best way is to put them in this way and make sure that the zip tie is facing the right way too. So you want it kind of like upside down like this, so that when you go to zip tie it to the harness, it'll secure itself in place. And for now, we're just gonna put them on loose so that we can move them up and down the harness as needed. So just like that's good for now. So we're gonna do the other 2 the exact same way. Okay. And we'll cut these ends off after we get these tightened down in position. So we're gonna work along the edge of the fender here, and we're gonna attach 10 of the supplied push clips that come with the kit. So these are the replacements to the one that we broke or pulled off of our old fender. So they simply just slide into place here and then click in. So before we move on to the fender liner, we've got to make sure that our other skeleton here is attached to the other end of our fender. And if you see, there's 2 holes, 2 individual holes on either side. These will get attached later. But these are the ones we're concerned about now, and they're gonna go in and attach to our fender like so. So it's a little tricky to orient this thing. But if you notice, we have like one flat side here with a place where a white clip would go. So that's gonna go towards the outside of the fender here where our other white clips are. And then this hole lines up with this hole here in the fender. So once we have that figured out and we have it lined up, both these holes will line up then, and we're gonna grab some of the plastic hardware out of our kit that comes included. And there's a couple of these smaller push clips. So these are what we're gonna use to secure in here and here. So these are pretty easy to put in. Just put in the base first through the hole, and then push in the smaller. There we go. Then you just use one of the smaller push screws, insert it through the base. All right, now that we have this skeleton in place, now we can move on to our fender liner. All right, so let's grab our fender liner and put this into position. So as you can see, this one edge of the fender liner has these lips that are gonna go underneath our fender, and then the holes here are gonna line up with the holes here in the fender. So let's just start from the front edge and start working it in. So you'll also notice that, I'll point it out when I get there in a second, right here. So they are marked front, left for driver's side, right for passenger side. So just make sure you have the one with the L on it. All right, so we're gonna leave it just like that for now. So once you have these holes lined up, I do have to mention that some of these might be a little small for the hardware we're using. So we're gonna be using these push clips that come included with the kit. So if you notice, it's gonna be really tight, if not impossible. So what you might have to do is just drill these holes out with a 9/32 inch drill bit. And that's what I'm gonna do right now to take care of these couple holes right here. Just make sure that both holes are lined up, the hole in the fender liner as well as the hole in the fender. That way if you drill through, you know you don't drill into a spot in the fender that you don't want to. And that's all it should take. One really quick drill through and make sure your holes are lined up. There you go. All right, now it should be much easier to get our hardware in place. Now, if these don't just push in, we'll grab a Phillips head screwdriver and drive them the rest of the way in. I'm gonna put the rest of the hardware in for now, and then come back and tighten them down. And for these plastic screws, you might have to put quite a bit of pressure on them to get them to seat. But once they're flush, you're good to go. No need to tighten them down any more than that. Also, if one gets stuck like this where it's just not going down anymore, you just go ahead and give a pop on the top of your screwdriver to try to get that to catch threads. Once we have these push clips in place, I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing along the outside edge of the fender for the other three. And then once we get this on in place, we're actually gonna put screws here to hold this on here. And just as a note, we're leaving this side open so that we can route our harness through and connect it and tighten down those retaining clips that we put on earlier. All right, now we're on the back outer edge of the fender here, and we're just gonna put in the rest of the push clips that go along the edge. All right, let's maneuver our fender liner up over our tire and just make sure that our brackets on our fenders line up with the brackets on the body here. All right, and then also we have, might be a little difficult to see, we have these alignment pins here that line up with the hole in the body as well. Once we get everything lined up, we're just gonna click or pop a couple of the front push clips here in place so that we can have this hold in place while we connect the harness. Okay, that should be good for now, so let's come over here and connect our harness. All right, so just pull the fender out a little bit so that you have access to pull your plug out. And right here is our connector. And also, let me see. Also, it's a good idea to make sure that this is on its plastic retainer clip. All right, let's go ahead and grab our connector. Wiring harness here, and this is their connector. Make sure that it's still in its plastic retaining clip. Go ahead and put the push pin side down, push this into place, and go ahead and hold on to the connector here as well, so you don't push it off of its retaining clip. All right. Once it's seated properly, just give it a tug, make sure it's connected nice and tight, and now we can put our fender the rest of the way on. All right, so just make sure all your white push clips are lined up, all the holes in the body, and then just give it a firm push into place. It's a good idea to work from one edge to the outer, or from the top to the bottom, if you will. You can hear the clips clicking into place. There you go, that was the last one. Now we're going to go ahead and put in our 4 factory bolts that we removed during uninstallation. Starting at the back here, they are all 10mm bolts, so we'll be using our 10mm socket. That's going to wrap up this review and install of the MP Concepts high clearance fender flares for the front of your 18 and newer Wrangler JL. Thank you so much for watching, and for all things Wrangler, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.